Hi, Venus Ferosi here. I just wanted to check in to do a quick video. I didn't want to take too much time to prepare for it because this really came to my mind and I really just wanted to share it. So whoever this is for, I'm hoping that it's helpful. So the purpose of this video today is to talk about Jupiter return. For anyone that's going through their Jupiter return, check your birth chart or your progress chart. This will let you know whether or not you're in your Jupiter return. And a way to know is Jupiter is currently in Cancer. So if you have your Jupiter in Cancer, then you are in fact going your Jupiter return effective June of 2025, basically last year. Now, for those that is going to be going through their Jupiter return this summer, which is when Jupiter enters Leo, check in your birth chart, whether it's in your progress chart, the sidereal, or your birth chart, tropical Placidus, to see if you have Jupiter in Leo, because then that means you're going to be going through your Jupiter return coming up. So this is something to think about. So anyway, I've been documenting my journey basically every single day as of this time last year, and leading into that, to be honest, I'm not going to get emotional talking about this. I'm trying, but just in case I do, just know in the past year, so much things have happened. So while I'm still 6 months out from my current Jupiter return ending, I started making videos since, 6 months before it even started. And fast forward, in between the time that has happened, let me just give you a list of things that I have went through. So that way, anyone else that may be going through their Jupiter return, if some of these things resonate in its own capacity in your own life, just trust the process. So I'm hoping that this video finds you in a time where you're able to get some relief and able to trust the process no matter what it looks like, right? So in general, with the Jupiter returns, it is a time in which you graduate whatever simulation you're currently in. It's a time in which you graduate whatever level, right? So it's supposed to be the most abundant time. I also consider it to be a time in which it's the beginning of the rest of your currency. Jupiter return is meant to teach you what it means to have something that no one can take from you and how life can manifest from an abundant place as a result of that. Right? So in Jupiter returns, people will experience the next career of their level and next advancement of life. They will end up meeting their person. They sometimes will end up getting engaged or getting married, or they'll get a house, new purchases, or they'll have a kid, stuff like this. Like when we think of Jupiter return, think of graduating to the next level of your life. So we're thinking about accomplishing another milestone, right? So as above, so below. While that might be happening in the grand scheme of things, but on the surface level, this is the way in which it can manifest for everyone individually. So I'm trying to find the best way to put this. So I always tell people, when it comes to that you're hitting a point in your life where you're meant to expand and you're meant to graduate, it doesn't matter what you have accomplished or not, right? So when people are going through a place in which they're meant to receive more, when people go through a phase of their life where they're entering a stage of their life in which they're meant to have more, the things that more is meant to replace will no longer exist. So that means if you're meant to have more friends or a better home or a better job, you can't have that unless these things are gone, right? So when Jupiter returns happen, or are basically coming, what you'll find is you start to lose things. People will end up losing a job or changing jobs. They'll end up, graduating college or getting a new job. Or also sometimes they'll break up. They'll end up having losing relationships, losing friendships, right? What I've noticed is sometimes Jupiter returns can kind of feel like Saturn returns. We know that with Saturn returns, right? This typically happens between 25 and 30. This is around the time, like right after you go through the quarter life crisis and your prefrontal cortex has fully developed. Now real life and the world above is starting to traumatize you on its own. You know what I mean? You have to go through this life humiliation ritual and also the adversity that's meant to build your character, right? So by the time Saturn return comes, you are meant to feel like, all right, I got some resilience, if it doesn't take you out, because sidebar, there is a theory in which people tend to pass in their Saturn return, but it's really meant to be, you go through this 3 stages of your life, so, and if not, it's, you're going to go through some type of near-death experience or something that brings you close to illness to give you a reality check around your life to take that serious. So unfortunately, sometimes it manifests in a very severe case for others, but you don't have to worry about any of that if you're very aligned, moving accordingly, and you're taking your life serious, because that's what Saturn returns are meant for. But back to Jupiter returns. So with Jupiter returns, I've noticed that it leading up to it, you can feel like you're going through a Saturn return. It feels very Saturn-esque. You start to lose things. You start to experience major lessons, right? And then in hindsight, you'll start to notice like these things are being replaced. And I've noticed that as well with Saturn returns. Saturn returns, what's not sturdy will shake, and then you'll lose those things. Now with Jupiter return, though you lose those things because you're meant to have more. Where Saturn returns is you're meant to lose those things because you need something that's more stable. So with Jupiter returns, I feel like it teaches you a lesson of how to want more, desire more, trust your passions, trust like your intuition, right? Lead from a more abundant place. It teaches you what it truly means to have a birthright to abundance and why it's so important to reach for it. Whereas Saturn returns teach you like, hey, you can't have superficial things. You have to be okay with going through the process. You can't take shortcuts, right? I feel like Saturn returns teach you how to truly be sturdy. It teaches you how to have resilience and grit. It teaches you to kind of like, no matter how bad it gets, you can't give up, because it can actually get worse if you choose to do that, right? It teaches you why it's important to ride this motherfucker till the wheels fall off. That is what Saturn returns tend to give and teach you. And in Jupiter returns, it teaches you why you need to have a larger than life, type of mentality. It teaches you why you should trust the universe, right? You know that saying, believe or trust the universe to show you how good it can get. Trust the universe to have bigger dreams for you than you can have, or even in the other sense, like a very religious sense, we always hear God can have a bigger dream for you, or dream a bigger dream for you than you can dream for yourself, right? And they always tell you to trust that God can show you how good it can get. This is a very real thing. That is what Jupiter return is meant to teach you. And speaking of which, let me kind of get into, sorry for my glasses, by the way, these motherfuckers is clearly broken. But I'm clearly writing this to the wheels fall off. But yeah, so anyway, let me just tell you a snapshot of like what my life has been like since this time last year. Last year, 6 months out from my Jupiter return, I ended up just got a case dismissed from going to jail. Which then had led me to losing my job. And then after losing my job, I then went ahead and obviously lost my home because I had to leave to avoid facing any form of eviction. I don't want to go through that process. So what I did was any money I saved, I had saved up, I decided to go travel, which was also AKA considerably couch surfing, or I had some of the luxury of having family members or even friends that I can take the time to visit. But also take that time to, apply for jobs. Like that was basically move around and see how I can sustain myself as much as possible while applying for jobs, while putting myself in different places to maximize that opportunity, right? Like being in different states, whether it's New York, Florida, or just Oklahoma, or like different parts of Texas, like stuff like this. So really putting in the work, but also building my platform. And I, to be honest, I went through that entire process. So long story short, 6 months out from my Jupiter return, I was literally battling a Class A felony. That sounds kind of crazy, Class A felony. That's kind of crazy. 6 months out from my Jupiter return, battling a Class A felony, losing my job, battling homelessness, right? Beating the case, but also now not being able to get a job. Struggling to have a job, and then obviously being homeless, not having a home. So I went through that entire process before my Jupiter return even came. And by the time my Jupiter return came, things still started to go downhill. And I would say my Jupiter return started officially in June, and I would say by July, August, and September, 3 months after my Jupiter return started, I ended up somehow business kind of officially clicked just when I had completely ran out of my savings didn't have anywhere to go, and also unemployment had finished. And somehow within like a week of that time frame, I was able to come up with enough money. Like I ended up kind of like going viral. I ended up clients like coming in, and I ended up building the business I was working on or trying to scale in the work I've been doing. Within a week, things kind of just blew up so much that I was forced to go find a home, but also I had gotten enough money to be able to afford a home, so that way I could actually now operate, because I realized, damn, I have all these clients, but I don't want to turn them away because I'm so unstable. So the universe literally sent me enough money. God sent enough money, funds for me to be able to find a home to settle down into. That way I can focus on my clients and the work that I do here with you. And then after that, I just decided, okay, now I have a home that I can, now I can go get my mother, right? And then, within 1 month of getting a new home and being stable and realizing, damn, I don't have to work a job. I have nothing left to do but to just love. I can get to focus on my mom, whose health wasn't the best, but also I get to focus fully on this passionate work that I do here. And within a month, my mom ended up passing in her Saturn return, in her progress chart Saturn return. So that was very difficult during this time. It is still difficult for me to process that reality, but also it's realizing just when that occurred, I had finally gotten to an abundant place where I had all the money, all the time, and all the stability to do nothing but just simply love and focus here. So it's like, it's a bittersweet moment, right? So, and I've noticed that not only with myself, but I've noticed with quite a bit of people that in Jupiter returns, there tends to be a little bit of a sacrifice. And there's a little bit of sacrifice with everything, But at no point did I realize that the sacrifice would be the very love I was working so hard to experience. At no point did I feel like the sum total of me trying to get stable just to make myself available to love, and also receive more love. At no point did I think that the sacrifice would be the very love I'm running towards. So now, in the grand scheme of things, I know we're still going through this process, but it's also realizing that in Jupiter returns, you're meant to expand, and a part of me, I've always kind of been concerned that if I were given the love too soon, would it keep me from actualizing, materializing the dreams that I'm meant to? And I don't know, but there's something about acknowledging that outside of my own experience is coming across enough people, enough circumstances, having enough data to know that in Jupiter returns, people tend to lose family members or loved ones or something that you value most. And sometimes I feel like that is the lesson around sacrifice. Sometimes a part of the dream that God has for you that's bigger than you could possibly dream for yourself comes with you sacrificing the very thing that you are just running towards and want so bad. So right now, even though I'm 3 months out from my Jupiter return, still processing my mom's passing, but also simultaneously wondering, like, a part of me is processing, like, what is the grand scheme of this? I know that more will come, but it's also acknowledging, like, damn, what is greater than a mother's love? I'm sorry. A part of me just wonders, like, what dream could God have for me that's greater than my mother's love? What dream? So I say this all to say, you just gotta trust the process. Because a part of me even wonders, like, damn, would I have all this if I wasn't just trying to have it so bad just so I can have it available to give it away, to love with it, Sometimes I wonder, would I have accomplished this if I wasn't just doing it for the purpose of love, So just trust the process and just follow your passions. This is a time in which you don't sacrifice what you love. You'll go through harsh lessons for it. And also, no matter what happens, just trust that it's all a blessing and things are working out for you, but you have to not fight the process. When it comes to Jupiter returns, if something doesn't work out, you'll have to aim higher. It's not where you have fear of desire. Having fear of desires will teach you a harsh lesson. You have to want more, no matter what it looks like. You just want more and reach for more because you're all about expanding. You're also okay with releasing for the purpose of receiving more, because all things must come to an end at some juncture. So you don't want a time to come where the universe is, you're meant to have something different. You're meant to, sail out of here because you've already graduated from where you are, but for some reason you're holding on. I need you to understand that simulation you're holding on to is already dissolving. It's already dissolving. You will hurt yourself trying to resist and go against the tide of things. Okay? So thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk, and I appreciate you for allowing me to be vulnerable here. But I'll do a little check back around this, but I hope this was informative and gave you a little bit of lesson. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. What's coming up for you? Is anyone in their Jupiter return? I want to know. Comment below.